Hello, welcome back to episode 6 of Green Monk Symbolic Analysis. Last time we went through Alex's vision kind of thing he had, all the way fighting these giants. Just a quick recap. Went into this strange dark place, so the feminine, there's like 3 things set town on. What do they mean? Check out last episode, figure it out. And now we're here. Now, what's happening? There's some sort of commotion, some sort of gathering. Well, Alex is going to accept the monastic vows. So, I'm not completely knowledgeable in Orthodox rituals, but here it is. There's a gathering, there's a guy at the front, he's going up, he have his hair cut. So he says, Alexei, as thou hast taken the sign of the cross upon thy head, dost thou now take upon thee the brotherhood of the cross in the heart? Will thou lay down the coin, the crown, and the sword, never to hoard wealth, enter into marriage, or harm another, and to take upon thee poverty, celibacy, and peace? I will. I have found thee accountable for the holy brotherhood. I bless thee as a robe bearer, and give thee the name Simeon. Place thy hood upon thy head, and raise to greet thy brothers. He does so. Just gonna quickly comment on this. The staff he has, I'm not going to dwell too much on this because I could spend a whole episode on this. Staff he has, it's called a cruiser. And just quickly break down what's happening here. This is related to Moses. Moses' staff. Other examples of cruiser is this. There's like snakes' heads on either side here, where the actual end of it is a snake. And here, where there's explicitly there's 2 snakes on it. This is just to represent, Moses' staff that turns into it's a rod, turns into a snake as well. And think about the story of Pharaoh. The good snake devours the bad snake, so there's also like a duality of snakes here involved. Also that as well, same duality of snakes in this story, of the fiery serpents like biting the ankles and looking towards the bronze serpent. We've discussed this in episodes prior, obviously, but I just want to show how what's happening just in this small ceremony. So this is related to Moses. Now, if we go back to this picture, if that's shown, there's candlelights. Candlelight. He's gone to the candlelight. This is another image of Moses going up to the burning bush. And what does he do? He has to cut his hair. It's this dead thing that's covering your head. That's what the garments of skin are in the Garden of Eden. This covering of death. And what was Moses told to do before he approached the burning bush? Take off your sandals. Take off that barrier of death that's stopping you from coming up to this holy mountain. So he cuts his hair. I'm just relating all this back to Moses. And he's going up to this light. And this is imagery that's also found in the Presbyterian pulpit setup. Look at this. You have the many down here. Okay. We have the many you don't see on the screen. That'll be like your normal churchgoers. Then you have here, which would be the choir. There's less as you go into, it's like a mountain, right? Here, literally raised up, triangle shape, the stairway. Going up to here, what's here? It's the burning bush. That's where the word of God is spoken through. It's the burning bush. So, there we go. That's Moses taking off his sandals. And what happens? Is that short? What happens after? When he's done, he comes down, and it's alluding to this radiance that's sort of coming off him, almost. you know, the light's not on his back, the light's in his front. And I think this also alludes to when Moses came back down, his face was radiating. When Moses came down the mountain of Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the covenant laws in his hand, he was not aware that his face was radiant because he had spoken with the Lord. What was here? Yep, there's an example there. So he leaves the monastery. He's out working, chopping down trees in the forest. He's breaking a sweat noticeably. Whole frame dedicated to him breaking a sweat. What does he see in the background? He sees a deer. It's a rope tied around his neck. That's interesting. Wonder what that could mean. Well, I think we know what deer it is. It's this deer that he sort of helped abuse with these teenagers. You can see there's the rope that was around his neck, and if I'm not mistaken, it ran away with that rope around its neck. There, that left one there, and that's the same deer, I would like to suggest anyway, as this one at the start. Okay. Well, what's the story playing out here? He's the child. Everything's happy. There's this uniting of this softening of the tradition, but the refining of the new life. And this slide here, it was that in harmony, right? They were inviting this life in. It doesn't have to be there. It can just run away. Then he was distracted. He abused this life and it ran away from him, as in this slide here. Now, as a man, as someone who's fully adopted this tradition now, he's accepted the monastic vows, he encounters this same deer once more. And he follows it, he follows into the snow, into the forest, deeper. He follows it. Why is he following it? Maybe he wants to reconcile his past. I'll notice here, this slide here, maybe you can't see it very well, he rubs his hat against the tree branch or log or what it is, wherever it is, and his hat sort of falls off him from there, and he's not actually wearing a hat from now on. Symbolism. So you think about, he's now, you know, he's less garments, he's more vulnerable, but you know, maybe that's needed for the next part of the story. So this deer leads him to this cave. He accepts the call. It's like he offended the feminine, and the feminine is sort of calling him, inviting him, and he's accepting that call. So he goes down into the cave. There's like a door, it's like into the cellar, into the darkness. And down into darkness, all images of death. Goes in. Filth, rot, sin, stain, wretch, liar, pain, hate, fear. That's interesting. Crows. A lot of water. What's this imagery? Crows are things of death. All this is an image of death. It's in darkness, it's in a cave. Where do you go when you die? You go underground. You get buried. All these horrible, filthy words. And there's crows. And there's too much water. Death again, drowning. The flood. Strange clay men come up. They drag him down, and he starts to drown, and he goes through this skull. Right? If I go to here, I hopefully this won't take too much to understand. So Noah story, the flood narrative. Noah sends out 2 birds. Sends out the crow, and the crow sort of just it doesn't bring back anything that's alive. You know, we the tradition would say it's a scavenger kind of bird. It feasts on the dead. So that's probably what it did. Went out and feasted on the dead. What the dove do? Went back, brought life. Just fun fact. Notice anything similar about this tree here and this twig here? Just saying. So that's an image of death. And it's also a flood narrative. And the flood narrative is also a narrative of baptism. It's all bringing together now. And that's why, in this next image, he dies. Reach out his hand. Where is he? He's in a garden. People in the garden. People in the garden have slightly less covering than usual. You know, we've talked about all this before. Right, what is it? And then, what was it here? Thou hast overcome thy trial. Draw near to me, Alexei. And it's this obvious feminine figure. It's like Mother Nature, the archetypal feminine figure. Come, sleep, thy sweet, the sweet sleep of the righteous. So he keeps on going. Sees this hill and water. He jumps down. Hello? Aye, you're here at last. Good, good. We might as well get started. It's very simple, really. You must make a choice. Choose the weapon you will use to defend the defenceless. Got 3 weapons on the ground. I can't choose. I have made a vow never to harm another. Is that so? Oh dear. Oh dear. Oh dear. This being turns into Satan, I can only assume. Choose. Choose the weapon by which you will champion the pitiful and the weak. I can't choose. I'm sworn to a life of peace. And Satan is destroyed, seemingly. Behold, it's an image of the Virgin Mary holding the Christ child. I'm gonna look way back to see here. You know, he's looking up at this image of Mary and Christ. Maybe it's foreboding this. Notice this look from Christ. It's sort of just, who's this guy? Not catching his attention. Choose the weapon by which my enemies will be honed down. Holy Mother, please, how can you ask that of me? I can't bear the thought of harming the humblest creature. Choose. So, he's been forced to choose. What's he gonna do? I choose this. He picks a blade of grass. You have chosen. Christ gives him a look of shock. It's like, what has he just done? And I'm gonna pause there and talk about this. I think this leads back to the three doors. Sit, tau, none. So, because she basically said, seek the door on the far side, seek the door on the far side. The third room has a name, but it cannot be spoken. Failure of its test means oblivion. So it's almost like straightforward mystery. And that's what he's done. These 2 figures said, no, I won't do it. No, I won't do it. But here, it's not so simple. He's been told by the Virgin Mary with Christ to do something. What is he to do? He engages in the mystery. He engages in the trick. That's why Christ is giving him a look of what on earth did this guy just do? Because that's what Christ did. He tricked everyone. I'll also cut in and make a connection between this story and a story of Saint Christopher, because it's quite similar. So these are 3 steps. One sort of reasonable, maybe makes sense. The next one's far out there, it's Satan. And the next one, some sort of strange trick. And it's related to Christianity. So if I go here, so this is Saint Christopher. Other depictions of him are a dog-headed man. It's this fringe character, but that's not doesn't matter at the minute. What Saint Christopher did, he sought out to find the most powerful king in the land, because he thought only the most powerful person would be worthy of my service. So he finds the most powerful king, serves that guy. I'll just run through it really quick. And he realized that the king feared someone. He feared Satan. So he tricked the king into finding out where Satan is. And he found Satan. He left the king, found Satan, and he served Satan. And then he figured out Satan feared Christ. So he tricked Satan, left him, and found these monks. And he couldn't find Christ directly. He found these monks. He thought they would point him to Christ. The monks tell him, go and pray. He says, I can't do that. He says, I go and fast. He says, I can't do that. This is the really earthly person, you know. He's this monstrous, kind of cannibalistic kind of guy. He's a monster. That's why he's represented as a dog-headed man as well. This monstrous guy. He can't do that. He can't fast. He can't pray. It's too disassociated from him. It doesn't really make sense. He says, that's right. Go stand by that river, and when someone wants to cross, you put them on their shoulders, you carry them across. He says, that's okay, I'll do that. And that's his territory. That's the border. He's a border fringe character. That's where the river is. So he transfers people across, and then one day this child asks him to go across, and he does it. But this child suddenly gets really heavy. He starts to drown, actually, because it's too heavy. He's thinking, why is this child so heavy? He finally gets to the other end without dying, thankfully. He says, who are you? And he says, I'm Christ. And why are you so heavy? He says, I was carrying the weight of all the sins of the world on my shoulder. Similar story. It's just the idea that he partook in this trick, 3-stage trick. So I'm just gonna link those stories a wee bit. So come back here. Got his hat back, thankfully. He's got this sword, blade of grass. Interesting. Takes a swipe at it, falls over. Accidentally managed to chop down all these trees. Remember what I'm talking about, that freedom of movement, that freedom of hierarchy. It's like when you do things with Christ, it's effortless. Previously, he was working a serious sweat. Now he's just done this without effort. He goes back to the monastery. The wall has been broken down. That's not good. The food's been turned over. The monastery's on fire. There are foreign languages. Please. What's happening? These pagans they're slaughtering the monks. No, he says. So he confronts them. He takes out his sword. Notice again. He's jumped up in the air. Hats off. Right, then back to these, you know, these kind of pictures where he's complete freedom of movement, less coverings. You know, he can fly, that kind of thing. You get the idea. Leads back to that. And he starts fighting these pagans, these barbarians. What did they say? These are the monks saying this. O Lord, let our prayers ascend unto thee. O Lord, my God, make ready our souls to enter thy kingdom. Forgive us the sins of our earthly corruption. Alice comes in. He's confronting all these people. And he slays them with this sword he's just been granted. He's getting covered in blood. and he slays all of them but one. This guy flees to his horse, gets on the horse, and the horse eventually crushes himself out. He didn't even kill him, the last one. Some of the monks are buried. This was always our destiny. When you came to us, we were already dying. Our order demands devotions of its brotherhood that few desire. Little by little, our novices stopped coming. Little by little, we all grew older. We all grew weary and bitter. Then you arrived at our gates. We had life again. We would have died, either slowly in the dusk or by the hands of desperate men. But you gave us life. Because of you, we live. Because of me. He thinks back to the people he's just killed. You have only just taken the robe upon you, and yet you've already violated our most sacred vow. If the lives you have saved are to mean anything, if our brotherhood is to live, we must honour the blood of the martyrs. You must leave, Andronikov. You will leave and go out to the world. You will save a life for every life that has been taken today, whether by your hand or the hands of the pagans. You will leave, and once you have completed your penance, you will return. So, packs his things, puts on his hat, he leaves. Old man breaks down in tears, and he goes out into the blizzard. And that's the end of the story, ladies and gentlemen. I'll just make a few comments. These pagans, yeah. Notice they are the same. Notice the face markings. Face markings there. They are. Yeah, this guy in the stocks. Yeah, see that on his eyebrow. Maybe not best in the camera, but he's got these markings. It's the guy he saved right earlier. These are the pagans, and also I have reason to suspect that this woman is also part of the pagan people. Same markings on the arm, where it said you're right, she was from the mountain tribes. Look at the marks. So there's an interesting sort of relationship, and I should also notice that not only are the markings similar, but this guy, the markings are identical, and his hairstyles is the same guy here as the guy who he did save in the stocks. It is actually the same guy. And that's interesting. I think about how he died. He was crushed by his horse. Right? There's a flip. You know, what are the horse? It's your legs, it's your extended body. The body principle. Man is the principle, the direction. The horse is the body. And it's flipped on its head, right? Actually engaged in this trick, flipped everything on its head, right? He was playing the Christ sort of story in this, and I think that's what this is representing. Also, just again notice, added onto the symbolism, the guy, his right eye has been damaged, alluding back to this page here. Foreboding, obviously. And he partook in this scandal. He broke his monastic vows. He left the monastery. And I think this might be alluding to the fact that, you know, what Christ did was scandalous. You know, it was God taking on flesh and dying. That's a scandal. Communion is a scandal. It's a tradition that's based around the idea of cannibalism. It's a scandal. I think Alex is pointing to the idea of the scandal being necessary for life. I'm not sure if he did it perfectly, but he may at least be alluding to that idea, whereas Christ did it perfectly. Another thing to point out, these walls, how'd they get in? They broke the walls. Think about your skin. Say something cuts you, what happens? The blood comes out and infection comes in. That's what happened here. The walls of the monastery territory, they're broke, and these foreigners came in. These foreign agents came in. It's like a disease. They came in and they're destroying everything. Right? And what's happening now? Well, because of that, yeah, they're allowed to come in, but now Alex is actually going out into the world. Because not only does that death, that fluidity, allow stuff in, it allows stuff out as well. And that is the end of the story.